we'll get started here in a minute.
So I did something with my finger.
We're ready.
Okay.
Yeah, I did something with my...
Call the meeting to order. Start with roll call.
Commissioner Allen?
Present.
Commissioner Norwood?
Here.
Commissioner Siragusa?
Here.
Commissioner Roberts? Here. Commissioner Stallings and Commissioner Orr not present. And Mayor Pinkinen?
Here. Okay, item number 2, invocation and flag salute. Invocation tonight will be by Devin Kraus and flag salute by Commissioner Norwood.
Please join me in prayer. Lord, we give you thanks for another week, another day, an opportunity to breathe in your grace and breathe out your praise, to live out our love for you by loving all our neighbors, and to seek every opportunity to live life with a glass full of faith, hope, and love. For these leaders who gather to listen and discuss, we pray for their spirits that you would remind them of the goodness of who they are because of you, and in the midst of the hustle and bustle to be reminded that you are bigger than our circumstance. Redefine us to be symbols of hope and peace for our community, and remind us of your presence here, Lord. And because of you, we can do more, be better, and live more courageous than we first thought possible. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in our nation's pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Item number 3, minutes. Item 3.1, consider approval of minutes of the special commission meeting of August 31st, 2021, and the rescheduled regular commission meeting of September 21st, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or corrections? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Item number 4, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item 4.1, present pet available for adoption at the city's Animal Welfare Department. Oh, we got a puppy.
Hey, I'm Erica, and I'm the adoption coordinator at Animal Welfare. This evening, I brought Charlie with me. Charlie is an 8-week-old, we think maybe heeler husky mix. He was brought in as a stray with his mom. I didn't bring her this evening because that's a handful. But she is also very sweet, just like he is. But they are 2 of our many dogs that we have available for adoption at the shelter. We are open Monday through Friday from 10 to 6 and on the weekends from 12 to 3. So come out and see what we have because there's lots of them that are looking for their forever home. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Item 4.2, recognize City of Enid Employee of the Month for September.
Yeah, we do this about once a month, and so today we would like to recognize our Employee of the Month for September. Greg Camarino, would you come on up? And Keith Brown, your supervisor, come on up here, and so everybody can see you. Greg has worked for the city for about a year. He works in the service station, and he's done such a good job that he's been recognized by his peers and supervisors, nominating him for Employee of the Month, and he's been selected. So Keith, why don't you tell him, because you're more familiar with all the great things he does, tell him what he does for the city.
Well, as Gerald had spoken, he got here almost exactly a year ago. He came in, even with his interview, he was gracious, he's thankful, he's just an overall wonderful person. If you come in, he works at the tire shop, so if you come in and you see him, he's always going to be offering you a cookie. So if you like the always bring in chocolate chip cookies, come to the tire shop. But he is the prototypical person who would give you the shirt off his back in order to help you out. Even if it's 3:20 and they go home at 3:30 and there's an oil change to be done, he's right there for you. So thank you, Greg, for what you do, and you represent what we want our employees to be every day.
Absolutely. I want to present you this plaque. Greg has his family here too, so Greg, you might want to introduce your family, but you probably want to say a few words.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate, I'm so thankful to be a city worker. It was my dream. I want to give all the glory and honor to Jesus Christ, my Savior, my Redeemer. Miss Karen, Joe, all the team work. And I really want to give thanks Mr. Brad he support me with his for me English teacher, interpreter, my job instructor. He really if I have this holding my hands is because everybody is a really very, very good teamwork. We work together. And is why it's not only me, it's all about teamwork. Teamwork, and I really appreciate Mr. Brad. I really, you know, I'm so thankful for you. I'm so grateful to teach me. If I come to be happy in my job, secure, because you teach me, Mr. Brown. You teach me. And you have a lot. And I want to give thanks to my wife. She support me for everything, and my family, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law. So everybody, sorry if it's in my tears in my eyes, but I'm so thankful. And like I tell you, it was my dream to be a city worker. And I am here.
Good.
Well, Brad, that's high praise for you, because I remember you were an Employee of the Month, too. So it apparently runs in the city and runs in the Fleet Management Service Station. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Gerald. Next up, I have a proclamation that I'd like to read. Whereas Enid, Oklahoma is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Enid, Oklahoma is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution and to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friend, and community. And whereas Enid, Oklahoma is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members and their community. And whereas Enid, Oklahoma acknowledges the mission of the Extra Mile America to create 550 extra mile cities in America, and is proud to support the Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2021. Now therefore, I, George C. Pankinen, Mayor of the City of Enid, do proclaim November 1st, 2021 as the Go Extra Mile in his or her own life, but also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make the organization's family, community, country, or world a better place. Extra Mile Day. In witness whereof, I have hereunder set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Enid to be affixed. George C. Pankinen, Mayor of Enid. Okay, we will pass that on. Before we move on, you can see it's pretty crowded in here, so if we get to the point where you want to speak and you have said what you wanted to say and want to move on, you will not embarrass anybody by leaving. So when your part is done, if you'd like to leave, feel free to do so. If you want to stay, you're certainly welcome to do that as well. But it's nothing to be embarrassed about if we got a full crowd and you decide you want to leave when your piece is over. So just want to make that clear. Item number 5, public comment. I think I have one that signed up for sure public comment and one didn't say. Mr. Fletcher, did you want to make public comment or okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Mark Fletcher. I am the president of the Turning Point USA Hub in Enid, Oklahoma. The two gentlemen behind me are Lance France, who is the Hub's vice president, and Evan Rutledge, who is the Hub's treasurer/secretary. Turning Point USA was founded by then 18-year-old Charlie Kirk. His vision was to make an organization that identifies, empowers, and it organizes young people to promote limited government, free markets, and capitalism. I first heard about Turning Point USA when Charlie Kirk came to my church to speak. At the time, I was already coming to many of the council meetings so that I could learn about what was happening in Enid. So when Mr. Kirk introduced Turning Point USA, I really wanted one to happen here in Enid. So you can imagine my excitement when I found out that there was a hub being created by some very hardworking and caring moms. They, just like Charlie Kirk, wanted young people to care about what was occurring in their government, and they also wanted young people who would be active, not passive, in the day-to-day happenings of the government, here in Enid and beyond. To conclude, I would say that all of the current members of our hub cannot wait to start finding out about what is happening in our city right now and what we as youth can do to make Enid a better place for generations to come. Thank you for your time.
All right.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Emily Laddick, you wanted to talk on public comments?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight we'll be discussing the procedure for recalling an elected official here in Enid. I honestly didn't think y'all would ever want to talk about recalls, but I'm happy to share my experience with you tonight. And I'm glad that we have so many young people here tonight to learn about this important remedy to bad government. Recall petitions are circulated among the constituents of an elected representative that the voters no longer consent to being governed by. It can be done for any reason. According to our city charter, which is like our city's constitution, 30% of the voters in the last election is the number of signatures required to trigger a recall election. We accomplished that successfully with our petition to recall the former Ward 3 commissioner. The signatures were verified by our city clerk, and the petition was found sufficient. The 2020 Enid City Commission, however, violated the charter in order to protect an unwanted elected official and disenfranchise the voters of Ward 3. The petition was challenged in court and eventually landed in the Oklahoma Supreme Court. It's this opinion that I'd like to discuss with you and set the record for future Enid residents. You see, the Oklahoma Supreme Court violated the U.S. Constitution's prohibition on enacting ex post facto laws, as stated in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3. An ex post facto law is a law that is applied retroactively. The court cited 2 Oklahoma statutes, both in Title 34, that the petitioners failed to meet. These statutes' provisions went into effect on November 1st, 2020, some 3 months after the petition was circulated and 1 month after the commissioner violated the charter by tabling the motion to set a date for the recall. I'm a history teacher by trade. When studying American history, I could never figure out what caused the veterans in Massachusetts to rebel against their own state government by burning down courtrooms during Shays' Rebellion. Well, I have some idea now. While we're light years from open rebellion, I believe we've had our generation's first glimpse at bad government. You may be wondering why, if our constitutional rights were violated, haven't we appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court? Honestly, it's easier to campaign and get good men elected than it is to rid ourselves of bad ones. I encourage these young people tonight to commit themselves to civic duty and allegiance to our town, state, and nation, to run for office and uphold the law. And if you ever need help with a recall petition, I'd be glad to help.
Okay, that's all we have for public comments. Next up is item number 6, community development. Item 6.1 is we'll start out with a hearing. Hold public hearing to consider rezoning property located at 1120 West Willow Road from C2 Planned Business Center District to C3 General Commercial District.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. The first slide on the screen shows our comprehensive plan. The little white dot there shows that it is located within a community center, and C3 and C2 is appropriate zoning. This slide shows the area being considered for rezoning from C2 to C3 in the yellow box. As in the past, when we look at a rezoning, we want to make sure our infrastructure is there, road, water, and sewer to support the rezoning, and it is. The reason the applicant is seeking rezoning from C2 to C3, the setbacks in C2 are 50 foot along a street. C2 is meant for large developments like the Evans drugstore, where you have multiple businesses within that shopping center. They have split off. The Planning Commission has approved the lot. He is seeking C3 because the setbacks reduce from 50 to 25. And when you're developing a narrow lot like he has, that is beneficial to him. And C3 is intended for smaller developments, and you see that throughout Enid. The other thing I want to mention is the uses that are allowed in C2 are also allowed in C3. So there is no benefit to the applicant to rezone to get a use that he couldn't have in C2. He's simply doing it to reduce the setbacks. Are there any questions that I can answer for you? Planning Commission considered it. Their recommendation is approval. Thank you.
So you can do everything in C2 you can do in C3, and everything you do in C3 you can do in C2. They're both.
That's correct.
Okay.
There's no benefit.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Thank you.
We have several people that have signed up to speak about that particular item. Start with Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I learned a lot today coming down here and getting to speak with some people about this zoning deal, and I do understand the fact that C2 to C3, whoever bought this lot is going, probably would be going through that particular zoning issue. So don't really have a lot of concern about that. I'm not concerned about what he is petitioned to build on that, as long as he sticks to that. You know, I understand he's wanting to build a liquor store. And I live in an area that's behind that. And it's mainly mainly people that are my age or even older. And we do have some concerns as far as traffic, the number of people that's going to attract. Just getting out of our area is hard some days. I know they've done traffic stuff on that road before, particularly since the building of that last apartment complex there. But, you know, you've got to keep in consideration VOTEC's going to continue to grow. There's more and more students. There's more and more traffic. And it is getting very difficult. I mean, just today, I've been getting ready to try to leave town. I have a fifth wheel, and I pulled in to get some things loaded into my fifth wheel from the house and try to get back onto the road. It took me 15 minutes just sitting there. So it gets kind of frustrating at times. My concern and others, which we learned about petitions and how today about we did file we've gone around through our neighborhood and we have got signatures. I know in the paper that he wrote, he also wants to build another apartment complex. We're against that. And I'm against that. And we will be watching, because I did learn that on the back end of this deal, after he does this conversion, this rezoning, he can petition to do that. And so we have to watch what's going on there. And so we can get our complaint filed in time. So I just want to make you aware that we're not against, you know, businesses at all. We would like to see some help with traffic. We want to see commerce, but we don't need more apartments. We've already got a new apartment deal that hadn't even opened yet. And we don't need more of that there. So I hope that you will take that in consideration, keep that in your mind with this. I mean, if he wanted to build a men's clothing store, it'd be great. I mean, we have to go to the city to buy clothes now because there's not a men's store here. So yeah, you know, there's a lot of things he could do with that. One other thing I am concerned about is that lot does have a drainage from the back side, and there's a lot of water that runs through the middle of that lot down to the drainage on the road. And how is he going to build and keep that drainage going where it's not flooding the back part? So he needs to keep that in consideration. So I thank you for your time. Thank you for listening and keep us in consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Kay Geezer? Is she here? No? Okay.
Okay, who?
Geiser? Is that you? I'm sorry. Did you want to speak? Oh, okay. Okay, no, that's fine. All right. Mary Krishnora? Krishna? Yeah,
I don't want to speak, but I just wanted to
stay.
be here tonight.
Okay, good, all righty. And David Unruh?
Gentlemen, I do not live in that area. I have several friends who do. When we were discussing the other apartment building, the greatest concern for all of them is the traffic flow. They asked about putting a traffic control light in there, and we were told that it cost $250,000 to put a traffic control light in. When I look around town and see all the other money being spent for what I would consider non-essentials, I think it would be well for you all to consider putting a traffic control light either at this particular intersection or the next one down by the other apartment building. In considering that, I'd like to ask how many wrecks, how many people being injured, how many people being killed does it take to get a traffic light put in? I experienced an incident with the city some time ago. They had dug a hole and made a repair and just set sawhorses over it, and we had traffic coming in and having to pull around that. It sat there for 2 weeks, and I finally called and asked why it wasn't been filled up. And I was told they had 11 other holes in town to fill. And the gentleman said, how many wrecks have happened there? And I said, none yet. But that's the reason I called, to see if they'd get it filled up. The next day they did it. So I'd like for you to consider, with monies being spent like on the soccer fields and things like that, it seems like a traffic light is a whole lot more important.
Okay. I'd encourage you to maybe talk with your commissioner offline. What we're doing is a hearing on the zoning, and the conversation was interesting, and I'm glad you brought forward an issue. But I think that's probably the right way to go, because right now what we're really looking for is a zoning, considering whether to change zoning for that property. Okay. So it really doesn't affect the stoplight, but it's good information, so thank you.
All right.
All right. Next, let's see. That's all that wanted to talk to 6.1. So item 6.2, consider an ordinance rezoning property located at 1120 West Willow Road from C2 Planned Business Center District to C3 General Commercial District. So,
are there any questions I can answer for the commission?
if there's no other questions, I'll accept a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion from anybody? Any commissioners? No? Okay. Motion and a second, no other discussion, so please cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7, administration. Item 7.1, consider a resolution adopting the rules for conducting meetings for the City Commission, City of Enid, Enid Municipal Authority, and Enid Economic Development Authority, and the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Carol?
You all considered this at the study session on August 17th. There are no changes to it since then, but we made some changes at that meeting, and they are all in here. That's the first item.
Okay. Okay. So, enter.
Are you done?
Okay, now we have a couple of people that have wanted to speak to that topic. Yeah, so 7.1, first one we have is Emily Laddick. Yeah.
Yes, Emily Laddick, 2101 Comanche Trail. I've learned much about our local government and council meetings over the past 15 months. And tonight I have a suggestion I believe will increase transparency in our city government. Each speaker addresses this body by first stating their name and legal residence. This measure of civility not only keeps politics directed at individuals, but it lets the people of Enid know who is about the business of the city. The meeting agenda is the business of the city. My suggestion is to include the name and title of the person adding an item to the agenda. This would merely require a few additional keystrokes when composing the agenda, yet it would provide the people of Enid with insight into the shaping of policy of Enid and increase communication between the people and their elected representatives. On the proposed rules for meeting in Section 18 on rules of debate among the governing body, Section E on tabling is not as defined by Robert's Rules of Order. Tabling something indefinitely is a misuse of this parliamentary procedure. A motion that has been tabled dies if not considered at the end of the next regular meeting. If you intend to keep the current wording, I believe you should add a requirement to read the tabled motions aloud at each meeting and the date that it was laid on the table.
Okay. Carol, as our parliamentarian, do you agree with the assessment or the with that comment?
Okay, well, each agenda item has a person's name on it.
Okay.
Okay, and tabling. Yes, the agenda item, this is not, as everyone on staff knows, I don't particularly like our agenda computer, but you have the agenda and it just has the title, which I will give you does not give you very much information about it. But then if you click on agenda packet, each agenda item has background, who did it, and attachments.
Right.
So that part is clarified. Now, as to tabling, we have for years utilized tabling, and we've just tabled it. And part of the reason why, okay, so Robert's Rules of Order are for very small groups and for big groups. And with the size of this group, they can table something, and if they want to bring it back, the mayor or any two of them can put it on the agenda. Sometimes there are reasons to table it for longer. Certainly, there's nothing wrong with doing exactly what Robert's Rules of Order has done, but we've always allowed for just tabling it, and then the person who put the thing on the agenda can get a second person to put it back on immediately or not. And our system's pretty easy for, I mean, I think all of you know that it takes either the mayor. Actually, if we pass this, I can't remember now, I'm having a senior moment. Did we decide that anyone could put something on the agenda, or did we keep it at 2?
It's any one.
2. Well, it had gone from 2 to 1, and then we requested it go back to 2.
Okay.
That way you didn't have some crazy person bringing back something over and over.
Okay.
The current version on the agenda says 1, but if you want it to be 2, you just need to clarify.
Okay. Yeah, I think, okay. So if you want it to be 2, we can do 2, but if this passes, then any person who wants to can bring it back for the next agenda. So these are your rules. You guys can amend the proposal. But, Mr. Gilbert, which section is it?
6.
6.
Agendas, an item may be placed on the agenda by the city manager, city attorney, the mayor, or commissioner is what it currently reads
Okay,
in the
yeah.
version that
So if you
is
could-
attached.
So if you want to, we can change it. We've had one, we've had two.
Okay. So anybody can, any of us can put it on as an agenda item?
Yes.
All right. As to if it's not addressed by the next meeting, it's, what were your words?
Robert's Rules of Order says it dies if it's not pulled off the table at the next regular meeting. The motion dies if it's not pulled off the table at the end of the next regular meeting.
So there needs to be a time limit on it.
If you want a timeline, you can have one.
Don't-
Both a motion to table and, okay, but these are their rules, and both a motion to table and a motion to take from the table needs a second, neither is debatable. Items can be tabled indefinitely until an event occurs or to a particular meeting.
Carol, is this, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
No.
Is this specifically on one topic or every topic that we deal with?
Tabling in general.
Everything?
Just tabling in general, and I wrote it so that it was as broad as, you can table it indefinitely, you can until an event occurs, or to a particular meeting.
The reason why
Any three of those.
The reason for asking that.
Yes.
From my experience of being on the commission, there are some things that we can't get done just within a week's time, or even a council meeting. There are some things that take time, and when you're up here, it's different. I know Commissioner Saragusa, he knows, but in Commissioner Roberts, I don't know what really would make the difference. I understand, Emily, what you're saying. Okay.
Can I ask just a
I'm just trying to get
question,
some
Emily?
clarity.
Are we referring this tabling to the recall? Or are we, any agenda item? Okay. Problem is like Commissioner Norwood said, there are agenda items that we bring up. And sometimes they have to be tabled so that we can get further information, whether that information comes in from the state, from the federal government. Federal government and the state don't work on our timeline.
Right.
They work on their timeline.
So there's a motion to delay in Robert's Rules of Order that you use instead of tabling, because tabling is never supposed to be used very often because there's always other procedures that are better.
I think if it was never to be used, it wouldn't be in there.
It's the last resort. It's the last resort, that's why it's in there. And how are we supposed to know what's on the table and how long it's been there? Who's keeping track of what's on the table if it doesn't expire?
Okay, actually, it's just tabling. In order for it to get, unless it is tabled to a specific time or a specific meeting or a specific event, then, if it is just tabled indefinitely, then it's not going to come back unless the city manager puts it on, or one of the elected officials, or I guess myself, put it on the agenda. It would have to be on the agenda. One of the things about Robert's Rules of Order is that Robert's Rules of Order applies to lots of entities that do not have the Open Meetings Act. So some of this is governed by the Open Meetings Act. So yes, in a different kind of group, like a civic club or something, someone could suddenly say, I want to bring back to the table, da-da-da-da-da, and no one would have any chance of, wait a minute, we weren't ready for that. But we can't do that because we are governed by the Oklahoma Open Meetings Law, so it would have to go back on the agenda. So that is we already have the protection of the open meeting law. I don't think we need additional protection.
Well, Carol, let me, one in particular, the biggest project we've ever done in the history of Enid is the call pipeline project for water. We've had the table many times, different things concerning that project. It's something that we couldn't just say, okay, we table it, we'll bring it back to you next council meeting, because our engineer department, we have engineer Chris Kadinsky here, he could vouch for this. We had to wait for him to do research, and we had to wait for him to get information to bring that back to us. It never went anywhere. We didn't lose sight of it. Is that your concern, that we would lose sight of?
I have lots of concerns about the use of tabling without any record. Is a dangerous thing. What I'm saying, if we're following Robert's Rules of Order, it's a motion to delay until the engineering team gets back to us.
Right, and we did
It's
that.
called a motion to, but that's not tabling. It's called motion to delay until, and there's a reason giving. But just to say, I'm gonna table it, we'll talk about it, that is extra parliamentary. It's not legitimate governance.
Yeah, because in that case, it was necessary. It's something that,
And the people who are watching the meeting said, oh, we have to wait for engineering to get back with us, that's why we're gonna delay this vote. It's a transparency and government issue.
Okay. But as I said, if they table it indefinitely, then it's not going to come back suddenly. It will come back on an agenda because someone brought it back. And that is an open meeting thing. But that said, I don't care.
and that's,
I mean, it's not, if you guys want to call it a motion to
and plus,
delay or something
let me say
else.
this.
I want to make a motion of order, and Emily, you cannot speak. You're out of turn. You have not invited, you do not hold the floor.
Carol, I would also like to say, that's the reason why we have a city clerk. She records information and data. That's the reason why we have cameras and microphones in here, to record everything that's been said and everything that has been done. So we will be able to go back, and if we need to pull up evidence, it's there.
Okay, thank you, Carol.
I make a motion that we pass this resolution as it is written.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion from the commission members? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0.
The next piece is the handbook that was recommended by OMAG, and they came and talked to us about it. And I know, well, I guess he left. I thought that the gentleman that was concerned about money would be excited about the fact that this little pamphlet is worth $10,000. But, okay, so I have added, at the suggestion of, so all of you, if you look at your pamphlet, page 14P, I have added at the suggestion of Whitney Roberts that talks about confidentiality. If we pass it tonight, we will turn it into OMAG to get our $10,000. And we'll have this for any new commissioners or anyone else who wants to look.
We've had this in hand quite some time, and everybody's had the opportunity to look at it, and we've had discussions on it, and I believe it's a good thing. It's been needed for forever. I move to approve this item.
I second.
I'll second that. Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0 for item 7.2. Item 7.3, consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title I, Administration, Chapter 6, Boards and Elections, Section 1.1-6-3, Recall Petitions, to provide guidance in addition to the charter for the circulation of petitions, Section 1-6-4, Petition and Signatures, to clarify that the petition must contain a warning, Section 1-6-5, verification of signatures and belief in the statement of grounds and charges, provides a verification for the circulators of the petition based upon the charter language and language found in Title 34, Section 6 of the state statutes, Section 1-6-6, timing of recall elections, clarifying that recall elections will be set pursuant to state law, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification. Carol first, and then we have some comments.
Yes, we considered this at a previous study session, and I do have two possible amendments. I received a call from Taylor Venus, who's a local attorney who also has run for elected office, and he was concerned that I had put in 1.6.4, it is a felony for anyone to sign a recall petition. He thought I should use the exact language in Title 34. Now, Title 34 says that, and Title 11, Article 15 says that we're supposed to use Title 34 as a sample, and we should substantially follow it. Now, I disagreed with him about taking out recall, but I do think he has a good point that the state statute says initiative and referendum, and that the Oklahoma Supreme Court said that we had to put this in. So I would recommend that a motion be made that we add to sign an initiative, referendum, or recall petition that kind of incorporates Taylor Venus's, but it also gives expressly the warning that if you're circulating a recall, that there are things that you shouldn't do. And that's what the Supreme Court had problems with. Then, earlier this evening, a suggestion was made that on 1.6-6, timing of recall elections, that we're putting this in because the time frame of 30 and 40 days of calling an election is no longer allowed. So it reads now, when the city clerk has a recall petition that she has found is sufficient, she will put the petition on the next city council agenda, and the council shall set a date for the recall election based upon state law. And realizing that obviously the initial charter was wanting to have it not hang over either the person who's being recalled or the citizens that want the person to be recalled, for it not to drag on for a long time. I do think that it would be appropriate to add at that meeting, so that the city clerk puts, she puts it on the next city council meeting. That's already in the charter. Once she's found it sufficient, she puts it on the next city council meeting, and that the council shall set a date for the recall election based upon state law at that meeting. Now, that said, there could be something weird happen at that meeting or something. So I had thought about making it precise that you have to do it, that you shouldn't delay. And I've been a lawyer for a long time. Weird things happen. But, you know, at that meeting is they would like that. It, I think, is clear that the charter wanted these things not to drag on forever. And just because we could have a very odd meeting and we need to table something, you know, let's hope that if something strange happened, for example, one thing that could happen is that if one of you got sick tonight and we had to pass a resolution and we didn't have time for the emergency to take effect, if we only had 4 of you, we wouldn't be able to do it with an emergency. Something like that could happen, and that could end up, I mean, but, so I definitely think the initiative and referendum addition in 1.64 is a good suggestion by Taylor Venus, and I'll just leave it to you all to decide whether the sentence in 1.66 should read based upon state law, period, or based upon state law at that meeting. I think we could probably, does that make sense?
Well, it does make sense, and we've talked about it, not amongst one another.
Yes.
We haven't had any time to study either one of these items. I don't know how y'all feel about it. Are you comfortable with these two changes as written at that meeting, and then the one adjustment, and then the other one being Taylor's language fix? I'm not trying to pre-poll, I'm just asking if
This might be an example where tabling
that's
might be
exactly what I was thinking.
This is one of those situations because we do not have Commissioner Stallings present and Commissioner Orr present, and we have, we try to collectively come to an agreement. This is one of those situations right now.
But I do think that there are, before you guys decide whether you want one change, two changes, or tabling, we should hear from the people who want to say something.
That's fair, of course.
Yes,
Always.
okay.
Exactly.
Indeed, always.
So, whoever.
I didn't actually sign up because I had spoken with you guys earlier, but the mayor has.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Okay.
We have two people signed up for 7.3. One is Emily Lack, and the other is Doug Peathard. And you were signed up first, sir. Come forward.
And Taylor Venus is on another list also.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't see you, Taylor.
For speaking so kindly of me.
Oh, okay. Wow. I'm always kind. Unless it's a computer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I do appreciate the fact that that we're taking the time to bring these ordinances in compliance with state law. I think if it had been done prior to this, it would have saved a lot of headache and heartache and money. Especially when it comes to the timing of the recall elections, I think that really needed to be brought into compliance with state law for some time. With respect to 164, the petitions and signatures, however, when the former Ward 3 commissioner was interviewed by the press, he made the statement that recall petitions should be hard. In fact, they should be harder than it currently is, and I can tell you for sure that was really hard. When the citizens of Ward 3 determined that they no longer felt represented by their commissioner, they explored the course of action they needed to take. They looked at the city ordinances. They looked at state law. What they didn't do is look at Oklahoma Supreme Court opinions. At the time that Clapsaddle and Blevins was ruled, the legislature should have adopted new legislation because the court cannot make law. Only the legislature can make law. So now we're in a position where we're still having law created by the judiciary. And we're trying to fit our ordinances based on something that's still not law. And the primary difference is the warning language is specific to the section in the Constitution on initiative and referendum. When it comes to petitions for recall, it still doesn't say in the Constitution, the legislature has never corrected it to say that there needs to be this warning language. So we're responding to a court opinion. I still think that the warning language is a good idea, but if we're doing it, we're not doing it because the judiciary says we should do it. We're doing it because it's a good idea and the citizens of this city think it's a good idea and we should include it. There's one problem I have with the warning language and with the affidavit from the person that signs it, and that it says in the warning language or in the instructions for the petition says, each sheet for signature shall contain a general statement of the grounds and charges for removal of the elected official who is sought to be recalled. And similarly, in the affidavit, it says, I further state that the grounds and charges are true, and I believe that each signature on the pamphlet is the genuine signature of the person whose name it purports to be. There's an implied assumption that the recall is based on some type of grounds or charge. And I think the citizens have a right to recall their representative, not on any specific grounds or charges, but just for the cause that they don't feel they are any longer represented. And that's really, I think, the most dangerous thing actually in this, is that the citizens have to have, really it's suggesting some type of cause of wrongdoing, and improper representation is not wrongdoing. But if my representative were to campaign on certain items and say, this is my agenda, this is who I am, this is my character, and once he's in office, exhibits the exact opposite of that, even though it's not illegal, I should have the right to recall him. So I think that language needs to be removed. Thank you.
It's the last time you're going to see me tonight. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, when the citizens of Ward 3 petitioned to recall the former Ward 3 Commissioner, we had little to go on and even fewer offers of help. I appreciate the desire to clarify the procedures for future freedom fighters. However, I oppose the current proposal because it confuses what is clear in the written laws of Oklahoma. First, the sample language in the proposed ordinance is not what is actually required by law. In Section 1-6-4 on petitions and signatures in the ordinance you have, the warning is not what is required by Oklahoma law. The inclusion of Ezell versus Lack may be inspiring for some, but it's an Oklahoma Supreme Court opinion. The appropriate language for the warning is found in Oklahoma Statutes Title 34-3. Second, in Section 1-6-5 of the proposed ordinance on verification of signatures, the last sentence is wholly manufactured and distinct from what is required by law found in Title 34-6 of the Oklahoma statutes. While some may not like our Republican form of government, the fact is governments only serve at the consent of the governed. The right to recall elected officials is one of the many blessings found in our city charter and ought not to be watered down. Finally, in Section 1-6-6, timing of recall elections does not address the violation of the civil rights of Ward 3 residents by the former city commission when they voted unanimously to table the setting the date for a recall election. Right. The city charter's original language was not lacking, but rather it was the integrity of the men who chose not to follow the written law. There is only a simple addition needed to what is already written in the charter that refers to Title 26-3 of the Oklahoma statutes concerning the setting the date of a special election. For these reasons, please vote no on the proposed ordinance.
So for the first,
we have one other speaker. Mr. Venus?
okay, I'll wait.
Okay. I guess I'll
State your name and address.
Taylor Venus. Let's see, 1113 Lincoln. I was about to give you the P.O. box because I'm. I will kind of clarify my conversation. It was pretty much the gist, which is kind of some of the language we're at issue here, I guess. Okay, that on 1.63, under Title, 34, Section 3, it has this language that doesn't include recalls, but I just want to clarify, so maybe, the city doesn't have to pay, as I like to call him, one of those tall tower attorneys, a lot of money to lose. again, which I would want it to be, and this part is quoted in 34, Section 3, it is a felony for anyone to sign an initiative or referendum petition with any name other than his own or knowingly to sign his name more than once for the measure or to sign such petition when he is not a legal voter. That's the quoted portion of Entitled 34, Section 3. I would follow that up with, in conformance with Oklahoma precedent, the warning includes recall petitions, and then add that last sentence as Carroll has it currently. So that clarifies, I mean, I think there'd be a reasonable argument that under Title 34, Section 24, that the intent's there and it would pass, but I think clarifying this would clean it up on the front end, because we can't really trust the folks down at 23rd and Lincoln to fix things quickly, if ever. And Carol, how would you like me to propose that as a, I mean,
The language is that what you're asking?
Okay.
yeah, you want me to?
We can, if they want to do your suggestion, I can draft it.
Okay.
It really is doing the same thing as this language.
Yeah, I just,
But
it cleans
but
it
if
up.
they, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one other thing.
Now, the language that you said come from Title 34,
Section 3, yes.
Section 3, word for word.
Yes.
And then at the end, after that word for word, we add to include
Recall petitions.
recall petitions.
No, and this is where, in conformance with Oklahoma precedent, this warning includes recall petitions, because that's,
Okay, and that would
I
follow
think that
word for word with
satisfies,
adding
yeah,
the recall at the end.
yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. And then also, it's awesome how Carol includes the 20, because that sometimes is an issue with doing these.
It's in the same section
Yeah.
as the warning.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, but
Okay.
people in general sometimes screw that up, and then she did a great job of throwing that in for if and when a recall occurs. My other only, it'd be under, just pretty much, it's already been hit on, so I'm gonna be succinct here. We need 60 days for the election board to get something put on a ballot. I don't
Well, this is where they give us specific dates that we can do it.
Yes.
It's just not up in the air. I mean, there's very specific
there's-
dates
Right.
every other year,
Right.
all kinds of screwy things that we've
And some
seen.
is 60, some is 75.
Yeah, I just was, let me finish my, real quick.
Yeah.
I just don't think tabling is appropriate with how the city charter was set up. If it kind of goes against the intent of a recall, as has been mentioned. And it just so happened that by tabling this last go, I think it pretty much made it impossible. I'm not inferring intent, because but I think in the future, I think we all know what's going on in this process, so I think we wouldn't have to table it for the city to figure something out. I mean,
Okay.
so I just prefer that it not be able to be tabled, because I think that was against the intent of the charter and kind of the outcome of collapse Saddle.
Okay.
Do you want me to read that out real quick? I
Sure,
don't know.
if you'd like to.
If-
You take out, you want it to be to sign an initiative and referendum, and then you want to add that it's judicial precedent.
I can just want me to write it out real quick and then
Okay. Here.
Actually, I think there's been enough changes where maybe one of the things we do is bring this back after we make those changes.
But I do want to address
Yeah.
a couple things.
Yep.
Because I think people are not catching one of the things. Okay.
Carol?
Yes.
If I may, Mayor,
Well, she wants to finish up.
I do
first,
want,
and then
since
we'll
we've
go.
got the people, I would like to explain the language that I put in to 1.65, because
I just don't want to waste your time or anybody else's time by what I'm going to do here in just a minute.
okay, I understand what you're going to do, but
Well, you might.
would you?
But you can read my mind because
Yes,
we've
I
known
do.
each other for
I
30
know.
years.
Yes. So could I just share where the language of the verification comes from? Okay, so what I did, and I had to piece together the two different things, because of course, yes, we didn't have the warning, which I didn't think we needed, but we didn't have the warning, but there's also another section in there that said that they were concerned about the verification. So what I did was I took the verification language. All the first part of the verification language comes from Title 34. The 18 years old, the signatures in your presence, and the Oklahoma voter registration record, and each signer is illegal. All that is from Title 34. Now, the last part that is offending everyone is actually from the charter. And it says that the person sought to be removed shall be, the petition will be filed with the city clerk, which petition shall contain a general statement of the grounds and charges for which the removal is sought. And then it also indicates that each person believes the grounds and charges, I mean, the persons that are circulating believe the grounds and charges are true, and that each signature on the pamphlet is the genuine signature of the person whose name it purports to be. Now, if we don't have that, then we could have another recall that doesn't work, because it would have the state language, but it wouldn't have anything about the grounds and charges, and our charter says that they have to do that. Now, the second one about the signature on the pamphlet is the genuine signature of the person whose name it purports to be, that's not going to be in the future a problem, because Title 34 requires that the people, I believe that each has stated his name and date and address associated with his or her Oklahoma voter registration record. And that, so it's referring to the Oklahoma voter registration record. State law requires people to have that. So I think that we're fine there. I've combined the two, and if they do all that, there won't be a problem with the verification. I took the old language, the new language, put it together. So I have no problem, and I think perhaps we probably should table this for another time. Hopefully, no one is so upset that they are circulating a recall right now.
You stole my thunder.
I'm sorry.
So in my experience, it's anytime you want to change something, change yours in the middle of the stream, you need to think about what you're doing. This document has two corrections that people are wanting.
Yes.
I think they're both good. I think we need to look at the language. I don't think a motion should be made that says, and we adjust it here and we adjust it there. I'd rather see how we do it. I'm going to make a motion to table this item until the next meeting.
I second.
Okay, and then,
Gonna say,
yeah, I want to, you can still comment, yes.
instead of tabling it,
maybe motion to delay it instead. We should probably use tabling sparingly.
No, my motion is to table this, and there's a second. The second, in the comments I wanted to say that I would like probably an item on the study session before that meeting so that we can see the language.
Okay,
And so, I don't know if I need two motions, but I'm trying to make just one.
We have a motion and a second to table it, and now it's open discussion.
Table it to the next meeting, and it's on the study session.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as it's been stated when we're going to discuss it again.
That's right. The very next scheduled meeting, which is in 2 weeks, that we will address this without fail, but we're going to have another study session so we can read the language, and everybody will have had an opportunity to look at it.
Yeah.
And with their approval and with all agreeing, then we can move forward with something that's right. That way, maybe our other commissioners can be here as well. It's hard, we all most make all these meetings, but this is kind of special. It's a little, so.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of tabling until the next meeting, cast your ballot. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right. Item 7.4, consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 6, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 1, General Traffic Provisions, Section 6-1-2, Definitions, to amend the definition of electric assisted bicycle to include 3 classes, and amend Chapter 10, Bicycles and Play Vehicles, Section electric assisted bicycle, to provide that operators do not have to have a driver's license, that persons under 16 cannot operate a Class 3 bicycle, but they could ride as a passenger, providing for repealer, savings clause, and severability and codification.
This just, they changed it this year. Electric assisted bicycles now have 3 classes, and they do not, and it used to be that you had to have a driver's license, although a motorcycle endorsement was not necessary to utilize these 3 types of electric assisted bicycles, but now that is not the case. We are just bringing our bicycle regulations consistent with state law.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
Second, any other discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Item number 7.5, consider a resolution amending the 2021-2022 Sanitary Sewer Capital Improvement Fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $200,000 to increase the 2021-2022 appropriated amounts for the Sanitary Sewer Capital Improvement Department.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, this is the first of 4 items for budget appropriations tonight. During the regular budget cycle, there was nothing included in the budget for the Loves agreement that we had. You guys made an amendment to that agreement at the last executive session, after the last executive session, and so now we need to fund that amendment, and this is the first one. This will be just sanitary sewer, $200,000 that's to be paid within 30 days of the execution of that agreement.
Move to approve it.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Item 7.6, consider a resolution amending the 2021-2022 general fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $30,000 to increase the 2021-2022 appropriated amounts for the general fund transfers department.
Yes, this item is to move sales tax dollars that we've collected in excess of what we budgeted over to fund that sales tax incentive in the Economic Development Authority.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Item 7.7, approve an emergency resolution of the City and Board of Commissioners declaring the necessity for taking, appropriating, and condemning a certain tract of land, BIA Tract 813-479, Enid Parcel K003, Call Lake Pipeline Project, located in Kay County, Oklahoma, for purposes of constructing and maintaining the Call Lake Water Pipeline, and authorizing and directing the city attorney or her designee to commence proceedings to condemn such tract.
This emergency resolution requires 5 affirmative votes.
Well, first we have to vote. We have to vote on the initial one
Yes,
first,
I just
right? Yeah.
thought,
Yeah.
Because we got several of them in a row, so we
Absolutely.
can't do them in bulk by consent, can we?
it's because of the emergency.
Emergency, okay, so I moved it, okay.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, cast your ballots.
I move the emergency.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, cast your ballots. Motion carries, as does the emergency provision for it. And the vote was 5-0.
Mayor, maybe I can assist.
Okay.
The 778 is the same thing. It involves a tract of land located in Kay County. The tract of land is the west half of the southeast 1/4 of Section 17, Township 25 North, Range 2 East.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0.
Move the emergency.
Second.
Motion and a second for emergency. Any discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries, as does the emergency provision. 7.9?
7.9
Move to
is
approve.
a similar one in
Second.
Kay County.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your ballots.
Move the emergency.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second for emergency. Any discussion? Cast your ballots. Both passed 5-0.
And the final one is also in Kay County, and it's for the COP pipeline.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Declare emergency.
For emergency.
Okay. Motion for emergency.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Cast your ballots. Okay. Motion passes, as does the emergency provision. And the vote was 5-0. Item number 8, consent agenda items.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 9, recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item number 10, all trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority rescheduled regular meeting are in attendance except Commissioner Stallings and Commissioner Orr. Item 11, the Enid Municipal Authority rescheduled regular meeting is now in session. Item 11.1, consider a resolution increasing the 2021-2022 fiscal financial plan for the Enid Municipal Authority in the Enid Municipal Authority Operations Department in the amount of $200,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Item 11.2, approval of claims in the amount of $259,786.30.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Item 12, adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item 13, all trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority rescheduled regular meeting are in attendance except Commissioner Stallings and Commissioner Orr. Item number 14, the Enid Economic Development Authority rescheduled regular meeting is now in session. Item 14.1, consider approval of a resolution increasing the 2021-2022 fiscal financial plan for the Enid Economic Development Authority in the amount of $30,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Item 14.2, approval of claims in the amount of $150,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Item 15, adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item number 16, all trustees of the Enid Public Transportation Authority rescheduled regular meeting are in attendance except Commissioner Stallings and Commissioner Orr. Item 17, Enid Public Transportation Authority rescheduled regular meeting is now in session. Item number 17.1, approval of claims in the amount of $1,873.95.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, cast your ballots. Motion carries 5-0. Item 18, adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. On item number 19, we are adjourned.
Got through it.